Hey, welcome to the podcast, David.
Yeah,
It's been
thanks
a
for having
minute.
me back. Yeah.
Um, just to introduce you to the audience, I know we've worked together, spoken a few times, but I always like to ask the question, who do you say you are?
Right now, I'm a college student.
That's it. There's a lot in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just right now, I'm someone who's at a point in their life is mature enough to pursue more education and
Mm,
to appreciate it. And I'm a coach to many in the
mm,
San Francisco and the Bay Area, whether I coach them in climbing or I coach them in weightlifting. And you know, I'm a, I guess I'm a husband to my wife.
oh yeah, that
So,
that's awesome.
so yeah, man, I'm just hanging out,
Yeah.
doing my thing. It's fun.
It's funny that the first time we spoke, I think you were getting ready to go into college, like take your first set of
Hmm.
classes, and then we spoke again and you'd taken two. And now this would be your second semester or your third semester?
Third semester.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did you decide to load up this time around?
No,
Smart, smart.
no, I've, you know, kind of like our first time we met on the first episode we did together.
Mm,
We spoke of like mental health and things
mm,
like that. And I'm trying to like really maintain a healthy balance of work, school, and relationship
mm.
because the school is something that I know that I need to progress my business that I have now started since we last spoke.
Oh, nice.
We'll touch.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So it's like I need schooling and certain things in place to help my business grow. But I know that if I do 100% of school or, a full-time workload of school,
Mhm.
that I'd probably be miserable,
Mm.
like just not happy.
Yeah.
And that my job brings me like joy and happiness.
Mm.
So I want to maintain a healthy balance of both.
Yeah.
So if I feel like if I was doing school all the time, then I would just be like stressed out,
Yeah.
anxious all the time. So I don't want to put myself in that place.
Mm. Especially coming from that environment we both came from where it was just like high stress 24/7, just about work until you drop. And then
Exactly.
once you drop, you kind of wise up and you're like, maybe I don't want to do that again.
So, I thankfully I have some friends who um are like in the military and they are like going to school at the same time. And my one buddy, he's finishing up his master's right now, and I was talking to him and he's saying it took him 5 years
Mm.
just to get his bachelor's.
Yeah.
I was like, that's realistic.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't, I know I don't want to take more than 5 years to achieve a bachelor's, but to hold myself to that 4 year schedule,
Mm.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
So, you know, taking only two or three classes at a time to where I can maintain a healthy, balanced life.
Yeah. It also helps that you've actually worked um, outside of outside of college. Like you didn't go just right into it. And
Yeah.
I think that that kind of gives you a different perspective where when you're going into college now, because like a lot of like myself, I went into college directly out of high school, but I had like a vague idea of what I wanted to do. And it just so happened that the more classes I kept taking, they worked in my favor. But for me, it took 5.5 years because I did the co-op and just being able to have real life work experience working around real people that are just like, well, this is what you might get from this degree or this is what you won't get. It really helps. And for you working as like a boilermaker, actually being on your own, not having to depend on like say like depending isn't a bad thing, but not having to like not know how the world works and just being like, okay, like this is what I like in life. These are my pursuits. I like rock climbing. I like music. I like being around this type of group, or I don't like being around like this negative energy. It really brings you into this focus when you're going now as a college student and you're like, okay, like I'm going to do this and I'm I know that this route works for me. Like if
Yeah,
somebody else is like, "Oh yeah, I did this in 4 years, 2 years," what it's like, "Hey, good for you." That's just not my that's not my cup of tea.
yeah. Well, and also to kind of piggyback off what you're saying about like a person coming out of high school going into college versus someone now, I'm in my mid 30s,
Mhm.
when you're fresh out of high school, you don't have a lot of bills, you
Mhm.
know. So it's like I'm an adult, I have bills,
Mhm.
and my partner and I, we like to have a fun life. So working too, it helps contribute to our finances. That way she's not 100% um, you know, I uh having to bring the money in, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
It helps her out because that way she doesn't have to work all the time too.
Mhm.
So it's really us, the whole married thing is new to both of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, both of us trying to maintain balance in our personal work lives and our shared life together.
Mhm.
And, one of the ways to, I feel like, you know, part of that balance too is just me bringing money to the table as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Is that something you guys discussed before getting married or just like
yeah,
even making the
well,
decision to get married?
originally at first she was just like, you don't need to get a job at all.
Mhm.
And then I got the coaching job at the climbing gym, and that was all started off only, like 2 days a week. And now it's evolved to a full-time job,
Mhm.
and I'm happy about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So,
That's a nice byproduct.
and what's nice is I've finally gotten to a point where I have a set schedule.
Mhm.
So I have weekends off. I only work Monday through Thursday. So then it's like an easy shift. I work from 11:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. It's like I can wake up, spend the morning with uh Lindsay,
Mhm.
hang out, I can work on homework. And then while I'm at work, it's not busy in the middle of the day. I can work on homework
Yeah.
while doing the duties I need to do around the gym. And then in the evening time, kids show up, I coach the kids, then I go home. Like,
That's awesome.
and then I have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Yeah. I guess what's it been like being a coach in this capacity? Because before, you were still a rock climbing coach beforehand, right?
Yeah. I mean, what you talking about in Georgia or
Yeah, like in
yeah.
Georgia, you train kids or other people like how to rock climb, but like
Hmm.
now being in the coach in the capacity that you're in, like in a new environment, and like I I think are you coaching people to rock climb or are you coaching people to strengthen condition?
Both. I'm doing
Both.
both.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I Monday through Thursday, I coach kids in climbing,
Hmm.
and then I have private lessons throughout the week with people for climbing,
Hmm.
as well as I have my own clients for weightlifting,
That
and then
makes
I
sense.
I do two group workout classes a week. So, or three rather, two at one gym and one at another. But
Yeah.
and yeah, the coaching, it's fun. Like, of course, like anything else, you're not going to get 100% buy-in from every kid, and that's to be expected.
Hmm.
But those that are there that truly want to like learn and get better, you see them grow, and you build these like little relationships with them. And it's fun. The
Yeah.
kids like they kind of depend on you. The parents kind of depend on you. You know, I get emails or questions from parents just, hey, we noticed, you know, whatever. Do you think you could talk to my kid? Because they really listen to you.
Mhm.
So, you know, I feel like I allow myself to take on more than I think the job itself. But I feel like that is part of being a coach though.
Yeah,
So it's really nice.
it is good. It's good to see that like you're able to do more being in a better place. Like we talk about just being healthier holistically and just like you're like physically you're training yourself and like mentally like you're sound and like does that has that helped you be more emotionally expressive or like do you even think about that? Like just being able to like process emotions because I think last time you talked about like having to um like figuring out why loud noises might make you jumpy.
Yeah. I've become much better at processing in the moment and understanding what's going on in the moment.
Mm,
So there's been improvement.
that's good.
And you know, what's nice too, working with kids is they're more often than not, they're a mirror.
Mm,
So it's like I'm looking and talking to these kids and it brings me back to my childhood.
mm, that's
And that's like
trippy.
I'm looking at myself and it's like, okay, how would I react to this? How would I want the adult to speak to me? And it's like,
What's that been like?
what's like a second chance in a sense?
Yeah.
Not on my end, but it's given them the chance not to have to go through what I went through.
Mm, I like that. It's that's a good perspective. It's I've been reading this book called The Little Boy in Me and
Oh,
it's have you heard of it?
no, I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's I think it was written by a pastor. I've got to look up his name, but I don't have it close by, so I won't run and grab it. But
Mhm.
I'll share it with you later. There's the the theme in it, as far as I gathered just from reading the first chapter, is like recognizing that inner child and kind of reconciling with him or her, depending on like where you find yourself presently in life. And it was funny to me because I had a conversation last week with a buddy of mine, Charles, and he made a statement that kind of caught me off guard. And it took me a moment to process it. And he said, I'm not enough, and that's okay, in the context of living this life where it feels like you constantly have to do more and more. You have to achieve as a guy. You have to him being married, it's like if I do so many things, then my wife will appreciate me. If I do all of this for her, if I do all of this, I'll be validated. If I like, it's like all of my actions will bring me um, the rewards that I'm seeking. And it's
Mm,
in addressing that little boy is like, what is it that I didn't get as a child? Like you were just saying, like getting a second chance to allow this child to respond in the way that they feel heard or maybe seen by the adult, not just like this domineering force. And
yeah.
for me, it was funny because I'm working with the guys, and I feel like most of my life I've worked with guys that are blue collar, working out in the field. I enjoy it because it's like half the time you're out in the field, half the time you're in the office, and like guys would like kind of start teasing you. They'll make small jokes, and it's like it's not meant to hurt you, but it's like I felt myself like being calm on the outside, but kind of like riled up internally. And then I was like, I feel tired. Is it because I woke up so early this morning, just getting my routine in, trying to just better myself physically, mentally, like get my day started, not just for work, but for myself to be like, hey, so long as I go through my routine, I do quiet time, do my devotional, do some exercise, like just move my body physically. I show up to work full, like I don't show up like I just rolled out of bed, like, I don't want to do this. But as I was feeling all of that angst, so to speak, for like
Yeah.
the silliest little comment, I'm like, why am I responding like this to being teased? And I thought back and I was like, oh, okay, like I feel like the little kid who's like being told, "Oh, you're too slow. You're not fast enough. You're not this." So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
then am I I'm going out of my way to do more to be like, okay, if I move quick enough, even though I know for whatever reason, like I can't physically move that quick, or they say something about, oh, this, that, and the other. And it's like, is that true though? And
And
like
I've
me recognizing that it's not true, I'm like, they're just teasing, and it's okay that the teasing's there. But I told myself in that moment, I'm not enough of what they say I am. And that's okay because it's like they know it's not true. I know it's not true, but the only way that this cycle or like this anxiousness works is if I respond. And then once you respond to something, it's like, oh, now I got you. Kind of like pulling your chain. It's like, okay. But then if it they're good enough guys to know that if it goes too far, okay, let's pull back. Or if you don't respond, it's like, you're no fun. But then once I was able to recognize that this is the inner child for me, whether it was like the 8-year old, the fifth grader, the middle schooler, the high schooler. And I was like, huh, why do I feel like that? And I'm like, I'm not that. Like, I've gotten past that. It's like, yes, I might be slower, but I understand that it's just going to take me some time. But once I take my time with this, I'm pretty accurate. Like, I'll be right on point. And it's like, even when
yeah.
I'm not accurate or fully on point, you make mistakes. Like, nobody's perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. So just
I feel
have,
though
mhm,
in the construction setting that that group of people,
mhm,
they don't understand boundaries.
mhm,
And looking back, because I used to be one of the jokers too,
mhm,
it tells a lot about the person. If they're constantly having to joke around and nitpick someone else,
mhm,
that's their insecurities coming out of them.
mhm.
And if they can't understand boundaries of like, hey, we're at work, we don't need to constantly be like ragging on each other or like, you know, now that I'm not in that environment, I'm not around that at all.
Mhm.
It's like that stuff was just unnecessary. It's
Well,
unprofessional.
yeah, I guess I I can agree with you, especially to the extent where people will kind of take it over the top. But like, what was it? The I've always found that the camaraderie, at least in a healthy sense, is
Yeah.
been some way to break up the mundane because like the jokes help in a sense to where like we're working with the machine and it just constantly keeps breaking down. Like you got to take it in, get it kind of patched up and things like that. And and it's like it reminded me of something I told this college student that I was working with at Home Depot last year. And it was like I would say something kind of in jest and say it with a smile on my face, but she would be focusing on something else and just being like, life is so difficult. Like I'm going into my last semester and I would like try to encourage her and things, but I would just say like, hey, just look at my face. And it's like I looked at their face and like they can't even hold a straight face as they were saying what they were saying. I was like, ah, you guys are great. Like
Yeah.
just being able to have that levity, but it's like that's very different. Like you're saying to just where like somebody would just go and they just kept going and going and going. It's like that not being able to respect those types of boundaries that does end up being a problem. And it does show that I'm only validated by how much I can get you to react. Like if I every single day have to be on you just to like, oh, you're not this, you're not that. What it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
those guys may have a problem.
And there we worked with plenty of them. So
Yeah. But so I guess what's it looking like now? Are you gonna do something for Halloween with just as the year's kind of coming to a close, or do you get into like the
no.
holiday spirit, anything like that?
Personally, me, I'm not a holiday person, so I'm just kind of like, it's another day.
Yeah.
But
Same.
because what Halloween's tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, as tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be working. You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure people may come to the gym dressed up, but I'm just gonna be wearing what I shorts and a tank top.
That's a good look. It works.
Pretty easy. Yeah, that's nice.
So
But
go ahead.
no, it's just uh, it's fulfilling coaching,
Hmm.
and it's nice to be able to, while I work and I'm coaching and I'm learning, I'm also growing my business at the same time. So
Hmm.
everything works together, and
So,
kind of like that, not feeling pressured to get a degree,
mhm,
start a business, and have to make it take off like right away. It's like
mhm.
I planted the seed, which is starting the business, and now I get to watch it grow.
Yeah. What's your business in?
It's the business name is Athletic Alchemy,
Mhm.
and
Good name.
it's personal trainer, climbing coach, guide, instructor. So, people come to me for programming, whether it's remote or in person,
Hmm.
and, you know, I help them with their goals and weightlifting, whatever that may be. And then I take people outside and teach them how to climb.
Nice.
So, I've taken quite a few groups of people out so far, and I've got steady clientele. And I'm about to pick up some more.
Hmm.
And then the idea is just as I get the education and some certificates that I want to get along the way, it's going to reinforce the business and make me more valuable. And right now, it's a matter of networking, get my name out there.
Yeah.
And
That definitely makes sense because it's plays right into the strengths of what you've already been doing. So you've got the experience most definitely.
what helps is not this 2 weekends ago, not this weekend, the week or last weekend. We're already
Hmm.
still in the weekend. Words, sorry. Last weekend,
Yeah.
I uh I competed in a powerlifting competition,
Mm,
and I got first place in my age group.
nice.
So, it's like good street cred.
Mm,
And this since then, all week at the gym, I've had so many people that were like congratulating me, high fives, hugs, really excited for me because there's the people that are close with me at the gym. They're like, yeah, bring us back something to the gym. So I brought back, the gold medal.
nice.
And yeah, that's going to help me get more business, get my name out there more,
Yeah.
especially now that, that was my first powerlifting competition ever. And did a lot of networking there. And I have another one in March. So I hope to see a lot of the same people as well as meet new people and
Yeah.
continue to get my name out there in the Bay Area.
What did that first competition feel like for you?
I was nervous, I was anxious, but then when it actually came time to compete,
Hmm.
I was focused. So like showing up, I was yeah, I didn't know what to expect. Learning the whole process of like how to properly warm up before I, do my lift. And but when it came time for me to get on the platform and do my lift,
Hmm.
everything went away. I was focused.
Mm,
And after the first round, which was my squat, after I got all three of my squats out of the way, I was like dialed in for the rest of the competition.
yeah.
It was just getting past the unknown.
Mm. It's a funny thing, that little unknown. It's just like, what's
Yeah.
gonna happen?
Well, what I liked the most about it was coming back to work and showing the kids that if you apply yourself and you work hard enough, puts you at greater chances of succeeding.
Mm,
Which that's saying that out loud right now. That's I'm writing a research paper right now on something similar to that, and it kind of contradicts what I just said. So it's kind of funny.
Well, break it down for me.
So, well, speaking of, college, this
Mhm,
semester I'm taking an English class and I'm taking intro to kinesiology.
mhm.
And the kinesiology class, you'd think I'd be excited about that because it's in what I'm doing. It's
Right.
actually really boring because a lot of what I'm learning, I learned in my personal trainer class that I took.
Yeah.
And there's things that are new to me, but it's not like it's anything fun.
Mm,
So like I do that work, but my English class has been challenging, not challenging because it's hard, challenging because like it's the content we're reading is like really gets you thinking,
mm.
has really stirred up a lot of emotions. And we're on our second essay now. And the first essay was like had a lot going on. And
Yeah.
the book what we're working to is called Rereading America.
Mm,
And essentially it's like going through and it's just literally throwing everything back at you that's kind of backwards, messed up, unjust, unfair in America.
mhm.
So it's just like throwing all these intense topics at you.
Yeah.
And then the first essay that I wrote on, um, the reading was discussing the nuclear family. So the model family from the 1950s that a lot of people that we used to work with still kind of live in that model. Or I know a lot of people who still, like, oh, reminisce. So
Mhm.
be nice if we were back in the 50s or something along the lines of that. So I wrote my first essay on, does the modern family still live to that paradigm? But then I challenged it and I was like, families, the way they operate, the way they function is based off of where they live and influenced by where they lived. So then in my essay, it was kind of a roadmap with lots of supporting evidence on, as you travel around the United States, depending on where you live, your family dynamics are influenced by that. If you lived in a more of a rural area, like where
Mhm.
we were working at Waynesboro,
Yeah.
you would see more of like that traditional 50s style family.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to Atlanta or like where I'm at in San Francisco, where it's more conservative or not more progressive, more
Mhm.
liberal, then you have a newer, more evolved family dynamics.
Mhm.
And my professor, like when I presented my thesis, she was blown away by that. She's like, whoa.
Mhm.
So now this next one is I'm writing an essay on how essentially how the rich keep getting rich and the poor stay poor,
Mhm.
and how people say the American dream is if you work hard enough that you can achieve success and you can achieve wealth.
Mhm.
And there's so many people that come here they from different countries to get a part of this American dream. And the reality is
Mhm.
it's not attainable for everyone.
Mhm.
So I'm
True.
breaking this down and I got a lot of different strong points I need to organize and figure out, are all of them worth going in this paper or not? Because I want
Mhm.
to talk about politicians, because right now we're at midterms, and how
Yeah.
politicians take donations from people to support their base.
Yeah.
So you got rich people taking money from people that barely have money to give because they believe in
Right.
what their policies could potentially be.
Yeah.
So there's one example. And then right to work states, I got a whole spiel on that. How, you know, if you're in a right to work state, that has a greater um, effect on your job, and it keeps a lot of people in their place without room to grow. Unions,
You know a little bit about them.
well, you know, how in the Boilermakers, for example, I can't speak for all of them, but the Boilermakers, those of us that are out there in the field working, our pensions are different from the upper echelon of the unions,
Mm.
and how our pension has been taking a hit for a while, whereas theirs hasn't.
Mm.
Or where BAs, business agents, make far more money than the people out in the field do.
Yeah.
And depending on what local you're in and who your business agent is, there's strong opinions on whether or not they're actually out there getting work for you, which circles back around to a right to work state. In a right to
Yeah.
work state, if you're a union, you don't have a lot of ground to stand on.
Mm.
Then I'm breaking it down into contracts on jobs, time and material.
Mm.
You get on a project that's T&M, they load it up with bodies, more money for the company.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean more money for the people that are working in the field. It just means
Mm.
more money for the company.
Yeah.
And normally under time and material, depending on how everything's set up, they're just wanting to work regular hours, you know?
Yeah.
So then when you get into overtime, that's where the people in the field make more money. But then really you're not, because you're getting taxed more.
Mm.
And then if the job does finish on time, the job does get a bonus goes to the project manager, maybe the superintendent, and it doesn't go much further past that.
Mm.
So it's like all these different things in place where the rich keep getting rich and the working class and middle class and the lower class just kind of stay where they're at.
Yeah. I think
So
it really speaks to also the type of people that you deal with, because in like it's rare to see someone that's willing to say, okay, I have enough and I'm willing to give. And also, even like as we say, rich and poor, like even seeing the dynamics in that, where it's like a politician that might be someone that's been a career politician, that they may be a millionaire or a six-figure 100,000-aire. It's like if you make 100,000 or 900,000, there's a big gap there. But it's like, let's not pretend that you don't have money. And it's like if you have someone like that, or someone that makes 4 million to 50 million complains about, oh, this billionaire has all the money. It's like, but wait, didn't I give you money? Like, aren't you? Because it's funny, and I think that's a good. I uh, I like your approach and how you're going about tackling the different subjects, or at least considering them in a way to like, how do I present this and how do I address this in an
yeah,
essay? Because like in your essay, is it page length or like word length? Like, is it?
it's page. So this one is 5 to 7 pages,
Mm.
and we need to bring in, you know, the first essay we did, the professor didn't want us to use any other content other than what we were reading in the book.
Mm.
So we were able to, pull quotes, stuff like that from the book. But now we're able to pull from the book and go beyond the book and
Mhm.
cite sources. So like today, before I go to work and when I get home from work,
Mhm.
I'm going to dig around and try to find 2 or 3 like really good sources that supports my argument
Mm.
and summarize them, and you know, then I'll start to write the rough draft. But
Right.
yeah, I've got my brainstorming process, my document, I've got my thesis, my working thesis, and then I've got all my supporting ideas.
Mhm.
And I just a matter of, do I need to touch base on all of them, or should
Mhm.
I leave some of them out? But essentially, the bigger idea behind the whole essay um, is the American dream something that everyone can achieve?
Mhm.
Or is it something that is a carrot that's dangled in front of us? And some of us are able to get a hold of that carrot, but most won't.
Yeah.
Because what we're reading in the book right now is talking about class.
Mhm.
And then in the beginning of the reading, it was made it very clear that in America, as opposed to like other countries, like say just like even other westernized countries like Europe, we don't really spell out or talk about class. And if you look in the media, if they talk about anything other than celebrities and politicians and stuff, it's either
Mhm.
the middle class or the working class, and those are
Yeah.
the words they use.
Right.
No one likes to discuss any other classes, and middle class doesn't really describe anyone. It kind of is vague.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't talk about our class issues. We actually just kind of sweep it under the rug and we try not to talk about it.
Yeah. Hard conversations to have, and it's like it takes some thinking and like profound thought to actually not only talk about it and address it, but then address it in the way of like, what am I willing to do about it? Because what the one thing I found, it's funny, like we talk about the American dream, and for me, I'll be celebrating 25 years with most of my family in the United States, and just being like, if I were to ask myself, like, what's the dream part versus like the reality? I guess part of the dream, it's like having the opportunity to come to a different country and pursue different ventures that are nowhere near available from where I come from, or it's a lot more difficult. Of course, yes, you have corruption in both areas, but there's enough of a framework or enough options where you it's not like an all or nothing.
Yeah.
And like you're talking about the classes that people don't talk about, it's like there's something to be said about the attitude someone carries, or like the family they grow up in, or the mindset they have, but a lot of that has to do with the environment that you're exposed to. And like having the internet, what would I say, post 2000 has made like leaps and bounds, going from like 2000 to 2005, 2008, when you have social media being introduced, to like another 5 to 10 years. Like there's a lot of people that get lost through the strainer, I would say, maybe of the dream. Like if you're sifting through noodles, it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot lost. And what I hope to share, and even like as you're sharing your perspective, is like different people come from different walks of life, and I think it's good to share what the experience is. That way you
Yeah.
kind of get to compare notes, and it doesn't feel like you're on an isolated island. Because like to your point, when it comes it's funny how things kind of get spun up when it's election season, because it's like you see people that you may never hear from. They kind of show up. They're like, "Oh, hey, like this person's the devil, this person's an
Yeah.
angel." And you kind of sit back and it's like, like what's really going on? And the funny thing about it took me back to my English class in college, where the first one was focused like this on like critical writing, or being able to take a story and pull out points from it and really formulate ideas. And the second English class looked at, I remember one thing in particular, we had a project that basically had us make up a political candidate as a fruit, and then we were supposed to like highlight them, and then the other candidate, we were supposed to like demonize them or whatnot. So
Oh, wow.
I think we our candidate was either a pineapple or their candidate was a watermelon, or it could have been vice versa. But basically, in order to smear like drum up a smear campaign on the other ones, we basically came up with um like, I'll say they were the pineapples. We came up with like a picture. You see somebody's at a strip club or something like that, and we just like you can you Photoshop, where you like blur out someone's face. You just stick a pineapple on this person's face, and they're like, he was caught over here, and then
Yeah.
this was over there. And it's funny, even like as it's something that we just made up, you just see the reactions within the class, where people are like, oh my god, I didn't think they would take it that far. Like,
Yeah.
oh guys, calm down, calm down. These are just fruits. These are fruits. These aren't the real thing. But thinking back on that, it makes me look at things now with a careful eye, like you're doing, and really asking the question. And like as you're asking the question, are you trying to persuade, or are you laying out facts, or just like things as you've seen them?
Well, I'm doing my research. And I want to lay out facts. I don't want to it's not supposed to be an opinionated thing. It's supposed to
Mm,
be, I can find proof where well, I mean, there is proof out there where, politicians were using money that was supposed to be for campaigning and having capital gains off of it,
mm,
or, you know, show where things are made a big change for like states that become right to work states and what it does to like be an employee at a company at a right to work state
mm,
versus not, how unions play in right to work state versus not, and how like it doesn't necessarily play out in the favor of the person doing the work.
mm.
So I've got a lot of research to do, a lot of digging in, but I'm going to find strong, you know, points or strong evidence to support my thesis.
Yeah.
But like one thing that I noticed in the reading that really stuck out to me in terms of like how we approach class or don't approach class,
Mhm.
and it really like stirred up some feelings in me because like I've been this person in a younger age, and we both have been around a lot of these people on the Vogel project, and that's how
Mm.
people shun or look down on people below them. So people that worked at the Walmarts and the McDonald's and the Bojangles and jobs like that.
Yeah.
And they looked, oh, those people, they looked down on them. And the funny thing is a lot of people at Vogel got hired at Vogel straight from working at Walmart, Burger King.
Mm. So
All of a
it's
sudden,
it's funny. It's like you come from an environment, and then once you leave it, you're like poo-pooing on where you came from.
yeah. Well, I'm able to look back at it and see, I was like, okay, I lived this. I got to see this firsthand
Yeah.
where people would feel they were better than other people because of their job or because
Mm.
they were building something or they were making six figures. That automatically made them better than the person who was
Yeah.
working at the department store.
Right.
But
Right.
then the person at the department store gets a job on that particular project, and all of a sudden they're making the big money,
Mm.
and now they're speaking that same language.
Yeah.
So it's seeing these different things that happened.
Yeah.
You know,
That is an interesting dynamic. And the thing with that project having so many people, it's like you get to see that, and you also get to see like the people that I learned to appreciate were the people that were consistent. Like they
yeah,
would talk to a laborer the same way they would talk to a peer, the same way they would talk to a supervisor. Like they wouldn't switch up their character. Like they
yeah,
wouldn't, but they were, I don't know if I want to say they were far and few between, but at least they were noticeable. Like
yeah,
that's someone I want to aspire to be to. Like that's someone I want to have a conversation with. Like people like yourself, people like Ben, people like many of the engineers, like people like Brad, like even Crumpton, like some of the
oh
supervisors,
yeah,
like you could
Crumpton, yeah, he was amazing.
yeah, like you
He
could
was
just
amazing.
see even someone that's so well respected being talked down to it would almost make me want to ball up my fists and be like, if you only knew who you were
Yeah,
talking to, like
exactly.
everybody here would just dogpile you because it's like you don't know, like you just get a little bit of like power, just be like, oh, I've got money now, oh, I'm different. And it's, I always like the saying that says money doesn't necessarily change people, but it reveals. But at the same time, it can have some a bit of influence because some people can lose their way to be like, oh, like I'm different now. And it's like, no, if you weren't really clear on who you were before you got what you got or got to where you got, then you can kind of just go with the flow and just be like, oh, like you're peasants now. Don't talk to me. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, buddy. Like we know we work at the same place, like we're next door neighbors, right? Like you're not that
yeah.
much better than me.
I feel like for probably, I hope it's not gonna be for years, like, but I still think for quite a few more years to come, though,
Mhm.
I'm still gonna be like reflecting and looking back and learning from that project.
Yeah.
because it keeps coming up in different ways in like my school assignment, especially like in this English class.
Mm.
The things that I'm reading, and it makes me think about interactions. It makes me think about what life was like in the Boilermakers and
Mm.
the conversations that I had and the way different people I worked with and how they viewed life. And it's just like it's that experience that I got is actually really helping me in college right now.
Nice.
It's like my professor, she loves my writing. I have a 98 in the class right now. And
Very nice.
I keep pumping out like really good papers and I'm just like, but I have all this fuel.
Mm. And it's good to have somewhere to put it.
Yeah. Well, she and I talked on a Zoom meeting one day and I told her this was when about the first paper that I wrote.
Mhm.
And I said, I feel that I just I bring more experience to the table than potentially my other classmates because they may only live in San Francisco and they have not traveled like I have, or
Mm.
they could be fresh out of high school and they don't have much life experience. But it's like because I've lived all around the United States and I've traveled all around the world, like, I have just more life experience and seen a lot more things. And,
Mhm.
we have a discussion every week in our class
Yeah.
and reading other people's discussions on whatever topic we're on, I can really kind of by reading, I can kind of gauge about how old they are, you know. So it's just like I just come with a different set of eyes.
Yeah.
So, and it's helping me out actually.
That's good. It's funny because as uh as I'm growing up and taking on some kind of life experience, I'm learning to see things a bit differently. And I feel like some of my naivety or curiosity may still stay, but like I feel that I'm also making room for people where I'm like, oh, you don't know, you don't know. And it's like even with my younger brother, there's an 8 year gap between us, but like in the one breath, I would just be like, oh, here's all the things that you need to know. Here's all the things that you're doing wrong. But as I'm looking at myself and just trying to understand better, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm being a little judgmental over here, like, what's the audacity?" And kind of going back to the point you made earlier about, like, how would I respond or how would I have liked to get gotten the information at that age? And
Yeah.
it's like, maybe I need to step off my high horse because I wouldn't listen to that crap, like, let me let me just be quiet for a minute, and then just being seeing that reciprocated in a positive sense to be like, "Hey, man, how are you doing?" Just thinking about you, or just like having more casual conversation and not always feeling the need to like lead because I've like, oh, I've got the age, I know this, I know that. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter what Astra knows if nobody cares to hear it.
And some of these kids, they're smart that I coach. And
Mm,
yeah, speaking of like leading the conversation or learning just to sit back and listen,
mm,
some of these kids, that the things they say, I'm just like, I learn from them. Because also, like, the education here is taken seriously, and these kids are getting a far better education
mm.
than I ever got
Yeah,
from public schools in Florida. So, like, it's like that blows my mind how smart these kids are and like
yeah.
how much they've already learned. Obviously, we're all learning and at
Mhm.
different levels and at different rates, but it's impressive. It's fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I think back to what you were saying about the environment really matters. Like I don't want to condemn like all of Florida or all of Georgia. It's like just different pockets. Like you can have somewhere that like where I went to school in North Georgia, some of the things that people would say present day that they didn't learn, I was like, I must have gone to a really good school because they really put an emphasis on these things and even going to college and being like, I think I said it wrong the last time I talked with you. What I learned in 4 months, trumped what I learned in 4 years. Like there
Yeah.
was good things that I learned in 4 years of like high school English, but like not with that streamlined focus as to like this is what we're doing and here's how you do it. And then you get to practice, whether for us it was like 4,000 word essay, 2,000 word essay, because we were meeting, I think it was twice a week. So like twice or three times a week. And it was just like you had to constantly write. And like it's like, okay, if I'm running out of things to write, I actually got to go read some stuff outside of the books that they're telling us to read so that I can actually know. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, now I see it a little bit differently than I was in the moment. To like the reason you work a job or you join a club or you make friends is to like really develop as a person and like experience life to where you're not just kind of operating in a silo, but even like on your own you can pursue adventures. Like I'm sure you could tell me a story about not only your approach to go rock climbing on a weekend, but just like what was going through your mind, like okay, I went here. Like you could be so descriptive about like here's what I'm doing as I'm climbing, and just being able to see that now. It's I guess I can't be upset of like what what the heck was going on during those 4 years of high school or like the 3 years of middle school, but it's like, okay, like I got to this point here where I could kind of put it together and I have like better tools or just a better understanding of like how to make this work. And even you talk about past college, what will now be 10 years out of college, and seeing, okay, this is how these things that were basic, like they still apply. Like people might talk differently, but like the the principles, the simplicity of the thing are still the same. Like if you're going to write critically, if you're going to think critically, you got to like sit and take a minute to consider what's the approach, what's your end goal, what are you trying to communicate, is that communicated effectively, what's your word choice, what's
Yeah.
like your pronunciation, is it clear as you're writing it out? Because it's like I could text you real quick and there'd be like all types of um misspells in it or spell check, and it's like you
Yeah.
might get the
But
gist of what I'm saying.
yeah, it's a shorthand conversation.
Right, right.
So, you know, talking about like the middle school and high school version of you,
Mhm,
for men versus women,
mhm.
we're speaking on neuroscience. Our prefrontal cortex isn't fully matured and developed, until we're like 30.
Yeah.
So like literally middle school, high school, and even like college for those who started right out of high school, like us understanding emotions and how to like um
What to do with
react to
them.
things. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
we aren't fully developed yet to the full capacity to actually take on those thoughts and feelings.
Mm,
So, you know, and that could also be another reason why like college is easier for me now versus then.
mm.
It could be another variable or layer.
Yeah.
But
It's it's funny that that's an interesting time, I guess, from just about, what would you say, 10 years old to 30. That's a big gap
it's a
because it's
big
like
gap. But like,
from 10 to 20 years, by the time like you're coming to the end of your teenage years, you're like, oh, I'm a man now. I understand. Like I got the testosterone, I could run through a wall. And then like the 20 to 30 years, it's like, huh, like maybe it's like the late 20s or so. And you just, I remember thinking to myself, like, what do I actually know? And then now it's like 30 and like you slowly working through your 30s. I'm what I'm allowing myself to question things, but I'm not um marrying myself to too many ideas to be like this has to be right. And like I'm staying concrete enough in what I think or how I think to where that's kind of like a guideline, but at the same time, like when I hear something that's counter to how I would see it, I'm taking more time to look at myself rather than like trying to judge why is that person wrong. Like
Yeah.
because that would just be like does not compute. And it's like something's going on here. Like, are they trying to trick me? Are they trying? But of course, it's like there are people that will try to trick you, or like we were saying, teasing. They're trying to cover up something else that they're dealing with. So it's like they may go on the attack. And it's like instead of having to operate from a defensive position where it's like, okay, I've got to be on my guard 24/7
Yeah.
because like don't wear the wrong colors, don't wear the wrong shoes, make sure this is pressed. Don't it's like there's so much mental energy in trying to fit the mold rather than just understanding who you are and just continuing to develop as a person through the things that you actually enjoy.
Yeah. That's what's nice about uh moving away from the old career and like now
Mhm.
is kind of literally what you just said. It's like not worrying about how you dress and like I can finally just I can be relaxed and be myself
Yeah.
and not have to worry about like I think it was yeah, I'm growing my hair out right now and my
Mhm.
in-laws are like, how long are you gonna grow it? Or like I was like, I don't know, until I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why are you growing it? I'm like, well, because, you know, back in the days of construction, I'd have been ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
Like, but now no one says anything to me. Like, you know, I, my hair as long as it is now, I just feel like if I were to go into the office building on the Vogel project,
Mhm.
a few offices I'd walk by where I can guarantee you someone would have something snarky to say.
Right. Right.
And it's just like, but now it's just like, hey, how you doing? No one cares.
Yeah.
It's like so nice.
I
'Cause
always
I remember
go
I
ahead.
got my septum pierced
Mhm.
during like COVID. And you know, when on the project at the time we had to wear masks and stuff, so I was able
Mm.
to hide it. But when I took it off, I caught so much bullshit,
Mhm.
sorry
No, you're
from
good.
people
You're good.
because I got it pierced. Like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, why does it matter?
Yeah. The thing that's funny about that, it's like sometimes people a friend of mine said this today. It's like there's a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. And I think people confuse those two. It's like it's good to be assertive and there's a place for aggression to be. But I think so many people lead with aggression thinking that they're being assertive instead of just saying, why did you do that? It's like if it's something that you're not supposed to do, they could just be like, hey man, you you're not you shouldn't have the piercing because this and that like just policy wise some like instead of just telling you directly what the issue is it's like is that like does not compute like I don't like what I see I got to talk about it it's like it's
Yeah,
bothering
exactly.
me it's in my eyes it's that it's like hey man like is that something that you wanted to do like what's keeping you from doing it? It's like oh my wife wouldn't let me it's like
Yeah,
that's a conversation you need to have with your wife. Like
exactly.
that's got nothing to do with me.
So, yeah, it's nice to like just be able to be me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool. You know, my coworkers, you know, we're all individuals. We all have our own styles,
Mhm.
and it's cool because it's like I'm the guy with shorts, tank top, and checkerboard shoes, and you know, my manager wears baggy clothes, and this person wears this, and then we're all just like so happy to see each other, and we're all like we have our own styles,
Mhm.
and it's just that's cool. And members of the gym, same way. You know, people show up, they all have their own styles, and it's just like, hey, how you doing? Cool.
Yeah. The
You
goal
know,
is the same. You're there to work out, you're there to learn, you're there to
I'm not
develop.
there to not there to judge.
Yeah.
And I even
It's
like the
awesome.
people that participate in my group workout classes, like especially people that are newer.
Mhm.
You know, they'll say, "Oh, I haven't worked out in a while," or "I'm whatever," and I'm just like, "Hey, you know, let's not speak negative to ourselves. Like we're here to grow, we're here to learn."
Mhm.
You go at your pace and with what you're comfortable with, and let's not worry about what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Or like Friday morning, I had two private lessons for climbing, and both people I brought to their attention where they weren't able to do something, or they'd say something that was negative to themselves.
Mhm.
And my question to them is, is that really helping you if you speak negatively? I'm like, if you have this I can't mentality or whatever. So I was like, maybe you should challenge yourself to like change how you think instead of I can't, I'm not able to do it right now,
Mhm.
or I'm learning,
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't, I expressed in that my style of coaching is I also like to coach on like more of a mental and emotional holistically versus just physical.
Mhm.
So it's like if you show up and you're speaking bad about yourself and you're speaking poorly about your performance, is that helping you or is that actually hindering you?
Mhm.
And then like they got on board with what I was saying, and then like they turned around how they were talking about themselves, and like they're actually doing better,
Yeah. It's
So
funny
it's like
that the power of words.
words matter. I teach that to my kids. I teach that to all the people that I coach. Words matter. What I say to you, what you say to me, what we say to ourselves, it
Mhm.
matters, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like let's not put ourselves in a disadvantage. Let's not speak negative about ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, because
Especially we're talking about the world we already live. Well, I guess you'd say the world you live in, the area that you live in. It's like life's already going to be hard.
yeah,
You don't want to make it harder every single day that you take a step, every single day that you open your mouth. You don't want to just like set yourself back like a whole day, a whole year, a whole 10 years.
a part of that though, and I've been learning a lot about this lately. Um, expectations
Mm.
is if we show up to whatever we do, we show up to life. If we put unrealistic expectations of ourselves on ourselves, we're going to constantly be feeling like we're not doing enough, we're not achieving enough, we're not good enough. And it's just like, no, actually, lower your expectations. And I'm not saying lower your expectations to like, in a sense that it's like you're backpedaling. It's like you set the bar too high and you're not able to reach that high yet.
Mhm.
And that you're going to constantly keep falling short. So, like, because that's one thing that I've learned. And like my wife and I, it's just like, hey, our expectations of each other or our expectations of this, she'll put me in check. Hey, check your expectations. Are you expecting to do something more than you're capable of doing at the moment?
Mm.
So, like with people that I'm coaching, kids especially, they'll come climbing and have these high expectations in themselves. I'm like, look, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
One day you will be there, but that's not today. So it's like, come back to reality.
Yeah. That, that's true. The expectations you keep will either help or hinder you. And you'd
Yeah.
be surprised what you can actually do with the lower bar because um I'm gonna go see this speaker next weekend or next Monday. And one of the things he always talks about is like starting with your room, like cleaning your room. And the way that he described it psychologically was like if you look low enough at like what's even on your floor and if you're willing to look there and deal with that, like there's so there's enough of what you actually need that's there that will get you further than where you think you need to go. Because it's like if you're trying to, what's the expression, reach for the moon,
Yeah.
but it's like you haven't thought about like how do you get off the ground. Like
Yeah.
you're just stretching, you're not really doing a whole lot. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm reaching for the moon. It's like cool, but how about you like touch your toes first?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
you can do both, but it's like one goes with the other and it helps to start low and then when somebody looks at you and they're just like, "Oh wow, you're winning a gold medal at the this powerlifting competition." It's like, yeah, I didn't just I might have won it on the day on this past weekend, but like I've been training for over 6 years of my life, and like here's how you do it. Like we talked
Yeah.
about like just stepping up, like understanding the functionality, and even you taking the like before you took the music class last semester, and then like this time you're taking kinesiology, which is like the it's the study of body movement.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Human movement, correct.
Human movement. So it's like all it's funny even seeing like how people, I don't know if you thought about this, but like how people structure these classes that like you get a credit, or it's kind of like what backs up your reputation. But like to your point, some of this stuff, it's like this is boring. Like I thought this was supposed to be fun. It's fun in the activity that I'm doing this, but it's like, why do I need to know all of this like stuff that's just like this is basic stuff. Like of course like this works like this, of course that works like that, but
Yeah.
like just kind of seeing the guts of what makes the base is it's something. It's like, huh, maybe it doesn't always click in the moment, but who's to say 5, 10 years from now you just start spitting back facts from this notebook and you're like, huh,
Yeah.
it's not gonna make it less boring per se, but it's like it still serves a purpose.
Well, to make a really cheesy analogy, I mean, kind of, you're saying reach for the moon. If you want to get to the top, you got to climb there.
Mm,
Whether that's, or you got to take the steps, you know.
yeah,
So it's like to get the education, I have to start from the beginning.
yeah,
You know, to clean the room, pick the things up off the floor first, then work your way up,
mm.
you know.
I like your analogy. It's straight to the point. Not too much cheese on it. The thing I found that I'm appreciating more and more is really simplicity. It's like it can be easy, hard, or everything in between, but if it's simple, it's like it's clear what needs to happen.
Yeah, it's a lot less stressful too.
Mm, for sure. And it's funny when we started, it was like dark, and then I just see the fog is like in the
Yeah,
background, and it's oh wow. I was gonna say
yeah,
it's
it's
lifting, but it looks like
no.
it's in
This is a
full effect.
this is a typical morning. Yeah,
Awesome.
for the sake of camera view, that way
Hmm.
is west. So the
Hmm.
ocean, which is 4 miles from here to the beach,
Hmm.
and that's where all that fog is just rolling in.
Hmm. Do you
So
do you get out that way? I know you spend a lot of time climbing and in the gym. Like, do you
yeah, yeah,
stroll by the ocean?
it's too easy. I hop on my bike and I
Mm,
ride through the park, and I'm there in like 13 or 14 minutes, something like that.
that's
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Pretty easy ride.
Yeah, it's like right there. It's so
Nice.
close.
Man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the trip for this weekend, but at the same time, I'm even looking forward to just like having this conversation with you and just starting the week. I'm like, man, there's more than enough to do, and I actually have the time to do it. And sometimes I scratch my head thinking like, am I forgetting something? Am I forgetting something? And I'm like, if it's important, it'll come to me.
Well, I enjoy that you invited me back because um this is a these conversations we have are like it's a good reflection period,
Mm,
and I think it's a fun time to grow, but it's also fun to grow with someone with you who, you're on your journey, you're growing, you're
yeah,
building out your podcast, you're building out your brand, and it's fun.
yeah,
It's a lot of fun. It's
most
to like just
definitely.
bounce ideas back and forth, get caught up on life,
Mm,
get deep on some topics. Yeah, I think it's very healthy. It's a good time.
Yeah. Well, um, I guess as you mentioned your business earlier, are you promoting it online, or how do you want people
I have an
to
Instagram page put together, but it's
gotcha,
bare bones.
gotcha.
I have a website put together. It's bare bones. Like I've got my business plan is outlined. I
Hmm.
outlined everything. I've already filled in some of the blanks,
Hmm.
but there's more to fill in. So like, I need to sit down and actually work on my business plan because, that's like your roadmap, of how you're
Yeah.
gonna grow and what your goals are gonna be. And it's like, I'm doing a disservice to myself to like not spend time on it.
Mm.
But yeah, it's on Instagram, it's something. I literally have like one picture and there's like no
Gotcha.
bio or anything because like I need to
It-
take time to like do the bio.
yeah, I mean, give yourself time to do it, and I'm sure if you
Yeah.
send it to me, I'll have it in the notes and things
Yeah, I'll
like that,
send
so
it to
people
you.
get it to you. And
But
the go ahead.
no, but yeah, it's athletic alchemy.
Mm,
So
I like it.
I'm
And
excited.
the thing I would say that you're doing well, and just keep the similar approach for your business page, is that for your personal page, you're sharing what it is that you do, and it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing complicated about it, and just even working with people in the gym, or reaching out to people, like just observing how they put things out. So if it's putting out one thing a week, or just something that's tangible to the story that you want to share, I think you have a pretty good grasp on it. But like
Yeah.
you're saying, give yourself the time to just do it, and make sure that it works with the hats you have to wear in life, to where it's
Yeah.
like you don't want too much time into this, or it's like, okay, if we put this time here for this, it's, hey, gonna be busy for a minute. And yeah, it, it's funny.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking at the things on my plate too, and I'm like, hmm, I'll work through that. And a lot of things I'm like, I don't want to just have word vomit and just say a bunch of things, and then at the end of the day, like not actually do them. And I'm like, okay, let me slow down, breathe, and then we'll see what needs to happen next.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, from the question I asked you at the beginning, as I always like to ask, are you still who you said you were?
Well, yeah, the first time we met, I said I was a work in progress and I still am. But now I can at least say, I'm a college student, I'm a coach, and I'm a husband.
Awesome.
So, and I'm
Well,
proud of that.
I'm proud for you. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure having you on, and we continue to do this more check-ins and just see how we
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah, I like this natural approach because it's like we wait another 6, 7 months and like there's so many things on your end, on my end that changes in our personal lives. And it's like, well, what are we going to talk about next?
Oh, there will be plenty.
Yes. All right.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate it.